Before we begin, unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders settle a little lower than usual. Notice the small rectangle of breath moving in and moving out. You've carried so much. Quietly, bravely, sometimes with a smile that disguised a storm. And I want you to know that I see you. I see the nights when your mind keeps running after the body is tired. I see the way hope rises on Monday and fades by Thursday. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are a human being whose inner world has been trained by noise, speed, and pressure. And tonight we are going to retrain it with wisdom, slowness, and breath. Change your mindset and you change your life. But first, let's change the climate inside the body where the mind actually lives. There is a kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The mind keeps reaching for new fixes, another video, another list, another promise of 10 steps, and still the old pattern returns. Not because you lack willpower, but because your mental architecture has been built brick by what you pay attention to. Attention becomes habit, habit becomes identity, identity becomes destiny. This is not poetry. This is wiring. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Pathways myelinate. Reactions become reflexes. That's the bad news and the good news at once. If the mind learned to rush, it can learn to rest. If it learned to scatter, it can learn to aim. If it learned to fear, it can learn to choose. Little by little, breath by breath, choice by choice. There is also a door inside you that hardly anyone taught you to guard. An ancient teacher said to watch over the inner life because everything you do flows from there. He spoke like a builder and a gardener at the same time, walls and gates, fields and vineyards, because the inner world is both a city to be defended and a garden to be tended. Most days we leave the gates wide open. News, opinions, urgencies, other people's emotional weather, everything walks in and starts rearranging the furniture of our mood. We wonder why we feel off, when the answer is simple and hard at once. What gets in, gets power. When you learn to stand at the gate, when you decide what may enter and what must wait, the city inside you becomes livable again. Not perfect, but livable. Not loud, but clear. I want to speak to your nervous system as much as to your mind. When the breath is thin, the body believes it is in danger. The amygdala rings the bell, the heart quickens, the chest hardens, the thoughts sprint. When the breath is deep and slow, the prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, chooses, and foresees, returns to the table. The body finds the chair. The mind can think again. A slow exhale is not magic. It is a signal. It tells the ancient alarms that the present moment is bearable. It says we are safe enough to choose. Practical spirituality begins here, in this union of breath and prayer, of quiet and intention. You breathe, you notice, you aim, not to escape life, but to re-enter it with your hands steady and your eyes open. I will not promise overnight transformation. I will promise honest change. We will move from speed to direction, from noise to discernment, from bursts of effort to seeds of habit that take root and refuse to be pulled up. We will talk about gates and watchmen, about compasses and one next step, about seeds and vineyards, about counsel and the company you keep, about honest scales and a good name that opens doors money cannot. The pattern is simple on purpose, small, repeatable, real. Strategic repetition will be our friend. We will say important lines more than once, so they move from your head into your breathing, and from your breathing into your choosing. Slow is smooth. Smooth becomes strong. Strong becomes quiet. If you're afraid of change because change has disappointed you, I understand. Hope can bruise. Trying can feel humiliating when the mirror doesn't change as fast as the calendar. So we're going to rebuild differently this time. We will build from the inside out, where motives live and meanings anchor. We will set measures that you can feel in your body. Calmer mornings, cleaner promises, kinder words spoken at the exact moment your old self would have snapped. Progress you can sense without a scoreboard. Progress that shows up in your tone on the phone, in your eyes when you look at the person you love, in the way you finish a small task you used to avoid. That is the kind of victory that lasts. There's a reason wisdom literature has survived longer than empires. It speaks to what remains true after the trends pass. It reminds us that a single honest scale can weigh a whole life, that a single good name can outrun cleverness, that plans without counsel are fragile, and that isolation makes bright minds dim. It reminds us that the field of your daily life goes to weeds, not with one dramatic failure, but with 1,000 little neglects, and that the same little can restore it. A minute of attention, a small honest promise kept, a gate closed at the right time. We don't need fireworks. We need faithful sparks, not harder striving, wiser tending. As we begin, let this be a room where you can finally put the armor down. The world outside will still be there when we finish, but you do not have to carry it all at once. Put your phone face down. Let the next 40 minutes be a quiet workshop for the soul and the brain. You are not late. You are right on time for your own life. You are not broken. You are patterned, and patterns can be rewritten. Not by shame, but by clarity. Not by noise, but by wisdom. Not by rushing, but by choosing. Here is the invitation. For the length of this episode, breathe slower than usual and listen for the single sentence that feels truer than the rest. When it arrives, don't argue with it. Write it down, carry it. We will return to it again and again because repetition transforms. We will set one next step that is small enough to do and important enough to matter. We will let counsel shape us and integrity steady us. We will trade the high of shortcuts for the deep peace of consistency. And as your inner city grows quiet, your outer life will begin to follow. Decisions cleaner, relationships warmer, work more focused, evenings less tangled. So take one more slow breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel the body concede to the present. Feel the mind come home. Change your mindset and see your life change is not a slogan here. It is a practice, a path, a way of building that honors your limits and calls up your strength. We're going to start where all real change starts. Not with the world, but with the gate. When you learn to guard what comes in, everything that flows out becomes wiser. Let's step toward the gate together and set a watchman there. There is a city within you that most people never learn to see. Streets of memory, markets of emotion, bridges between thought and breath. At the center stands a quiet gate, and the way that gate is tended shapes everything that happens inside. When the gate is unguarded, strangers wander in and begin to speak with authority. Urgent headlines take the mayor's chair. Harsh opinions repaint the walls. Old fears set up stalls in the market and sell you the same tired story at a higher price. When the gate is tended, the city grows clear again. Voices are weighed. Motives are examined. Peace patrols the avenues where panic once ran loudly, and a livable order returns. Ancient wisdom speaks of guarding the inner life because the springs of action rise from there. The image is strong for a reason. A gate is not a decoration. A gate makes decisions about what enters and what waits outside. In the same way, attention is not casual. Attention is permission. Whatever gains your attention gains influence over your chemistry, your focus, your words, your next choice. This is not a moral lecture. This is how bodies and minds work. The nervous system does not ask whether an input is true before it reacts. It asks whether the input feels threatening, whether it belongs, whether it repeats a familiar rhythm. Repetition feels safe even when it harms. Discernment feels slow even when it heals. The gatekeeper learns to bear the slower rhythm because life inside is worth protecting. Picture a morning that opens with quiet rather than collision. No flood of noise, no quick jolt of comparison, no emotional weather borrowed from a stranger. The breath has a little more space. The shoulders settle by themselves. The mind that usually leaps begins to step. In this slower opening, the part of the brain that plans and chooses becomes more available. The alarms soften. Patience returns. On days like this, thoughts feel less like a stampede and more like a conversation in a well-lit room. The difference does not come from a dramatic event outside. It comes from the gate being tended inside. Now picture a different start. The gate is left open. A glowing screen enters and begins to speak in the language of urgency. The body hears the tone, and prepares for conflict. Muscles harden, breathing thins. The mind that could weigh options becomes a courtroom where the loudest argument wins. It seems small, almost harmless, yet it directs the day before the day has begun. What enters in the earliest moments writes the first lines of the script for the hours that follow. The city has not done anything wrong. It has simply allowed a guest to seize the microphone. This is why the gatekeeper image matters. A watchman standing on the wall is not angry or anxious. The watchman is attentive. The watchman knows the faces that bring peace and the faces that bring noise. The watchman is not impressed by novelty. The watchman asks the only question that counts. Will this input strengthen the city or weaken it? In modern language, will this thought, this voice, this habit of consumption leave my nervous system steadier or shakier? Will it build the bridge between my values and my choices, or will it set fire to that bridge? The watchman does not need drama or speeches. The watchman needs clarity and practice. There is a piece of comforting science here. The brain is plastic across a lifetime. Pathways strengthen with use and fade with neglect. When the gatekeeper lets calming, coherent, value-aligned inputs cross the threshold more often, the pathways of steadiness become easier to travel. The mind reaches them with less effort. When the gatekeeper lets noisy, shaming, comparison-soaked inputs pass less often, the pathways of agitation grow faint. This is not a magic trick. This is training. This is the same quiet repetition that builds a muscle or tunes an instrument. What the mind rehearses, the life performs. Spiritual language gives the same insight a deeper root. The inner life is a sanctuary before it is a stage. What lives in that sanctuary is shaped by reverence, by honesty, by the practice of listening for what is pure and wise. Reverence does not mean pretending the world is gentle. Reverence means treating the inner world as worthy of care. When you treat your inner world this way, guilt loses its false authority. Shame stops being the doorman. Your values begin to sit at the table again, and the decisions that once felt impossible begin to feel possible. Not because circumstances have softened, but because the room inside is no longer crowded by uninvited guests. Sometimes the gatekeeper has to face the oldest visitor of all, the inner voice that narrates your life with a hard edge. That voice often sounds like protection, yet it is only fear dressed in familiar clothes. It tells you to expect disappointment so the fall will hurt less. It tells you to rush so you will not feel the uncertainty that follows stillness. The gatekeeper learns to meet that voice with a measured nod and a steady answer. I hear you. You are trying to keep me safe. Today, safety looks like clarity and patience. Today, safety looks like refusing to borrow storms that are not here. The voice will still try to argue. Over time, it grows quieter when it learns that the watchman will not hand it the keys. There is kindness in this way of living, not the softness that avoids truth, but the strength that carries it well. The gatekeeper does not hate noise or judge those who speak it. The gatekeeper simply knows the cost of letting everything in. Peace is expensive. Focus is expensive. Integrity is expensive. They are paid for with attention. When attention is spent wisely, the city gains more than calm. It gains direction. It gains the capacity to choose the next right move without a wrestling match. It gains a tone that others can feel when they interact with you. A tone that says, there is room for both courage and gentleness here. A city with tended gates becomes a place where counsel matters. When the inner crowd grows quiet, wise voices can finally be heard. An elder thought from a trusted book, a grounded perspective from a friend who lives what they say, a whisper of conscience that had been drowned in static. These voices are not loud, yet they have weight. They do not rush you, they strengthen you. They do not flatter you, they steady you. The gatekeeper learns their sound and welcomes them with gratitude because the city becomes safer when they speak. The image of the gate is not meant to create anxiety about perfection. Gates are opened and closed by human hands. Some days you will notice the slip. Some days the noise will step inside and rearrange the furniture again. Even then, the practice holds. Notice without scolding. Breathe a little deeper. Walk the watchman back to the wall, lift the eyes to the horizon, and look for what is good, true and strengthening. The city remembers. The pathways of peace light up again. The market of emotion settles into fair trade. The streets of memory stop echoing with criticism and begin to carry kinder footsteps. The gatekeeper mind is a way of honoring your life. It is a promise to stop letting strangers write your story. It is a choice to let wisdom have a key to the door. Guarding the inner city does not shrink your world. It expands your freedom. It turns noise into signal, urgency into timing, reaction into response. When the gate is tended, you recognize yourself again. The face in the mirror softens. The day in front of you becomes a path rather than a maze. And the life outside, slowly and faithfully, begins to reflect the order within. There is a kind of rushing that feels like progress because the heart is pounding and the calendar is full. Yet when night comes, the soul cannot point to anything that truly moved. The day becomes a blur of tabs and tidbits, a noisy market of tips where every voice promises a shortcut and none of them know the road to your specific life. Speed gives a sensation that warms the surface, while direction warms the center. Speed is a drumbeat. Direction is a compass. When the body is flooded with urgency, it believes the drumbeat. When the breath steadies and the mind remembers what matters, the compass becomes visible again. Information is plentiful and strangely dehydrating. It pours through the eyes and ears until the inner well feels drier than before. Wisdom is different. Wisdom selects. Wisdom trims. Wisdom moves a single lamp closer to the path and lets the rest of the house remain dark until the next step is taken. That is why ancient voices spoke about understanding, not more noise, but the ability to separate the essential from the almost essential. The nervous system adores novelty because novelty sparkles. The heart adores meaning because meaning roots. Direction grows where meaning and truth meet, and the body relaxes when it recognizes that meeting. Consider a week that is organized by volume. Many plans, many goals, many open loops. The mind jumps from one to the next like a stone skipping across a lake, never sinking beneath the surface long enough to touch the cool water where clarity lives. Now consider a week guided by understanding. Fewer plans, but deeper. Fewer tasks, but chosen with care. The lake accepts the stone, the ripples widen, and the movement lasts. People often call this discipline, yet inside it feels like relief. Relief that comes from finally allowing the inner compass to lead instead of letting urgency pull the steering wheel with impatient hands. There is gentle science beneath this poetry. When stress chemistry runs high, the part of the brain that navigates long horizons becomes less available. The mind favors immediate rewards, quick hits of completion, easy boxes to check. Information fits this moment beautifully. It is quick to consume, quick to forget, quick to replace. Wisdom does not fit the rush. Wisdom asks for the kind of attention that only returns when the breath is deeper and the body senses safety. In that safer field, values rise to the surface and decisions stop arguing with each other. The future gets a seat at the table again. Direction over speed is not laziness dressed up as depth. It is courage with a quiet voice. It is the willingness to disappoint the false gods of instant response and constant availability so that the truer work can happen. A person who is learning direction allows silence to do part of the heavy lifting. In that silence, patterns begin to reveal themselves. The same distraction that has been stealing focus for years. The same fear that makes every new idea feel urgent, even when it is not important. The same craving for applause that bends decisions away from integrity. Seeing these patterns is not comfortable, but it is freeing, because sight is the beginning of selection. Ancient wisdom loves images that anchor this truth. A compass in a storm, a path through a vineyard that is pruned so the fruit can grow, a king who listens for counsel before moving an army. The thread that runs through these pictures is simple. Power without direction wastes itself. Abundance without order rots. Talent without understanding stumbles in circles and names the circles progress. When direction returns, energy stops spilling and begins to gather. Work feels less like sprinting and more like rowing, with a clear shoreline in view. The strokes are still strong, yet they are no longer frantic. There is a tenderness here for the one who has been sprinting for a long time. Speed has often been a shelter. Moving fast kept certain feelings at bay, kept certain memories behind a locked door, kept certain questions from knocking too loudly. Direction can feel risky because it slows a person down to the pace where the deeper heart can finally speak. That voice is not harsh. It is honest. It will not demand a grand leap. It will ask for alignment. It will ask for a path that matches what matters most, even if the path looks smaller on the outside and richer on the inside. Wisdom versus mere information also changes the way success is measured. When information rules, the measure is quantity. How much consumed? How many tasks finished? How many messages answered? When wisdom leads, the measure becomes quality. Was the next right thing moved? Did the decision reflect the truth of who I am becoming? Did the work I touched today make the future clearer and kinder? These are quieter questions, yet they are the ones a person remembers when the lights go off and there is nothing left to impress. There is a soft repetition worth holding close. Direction over speed. The words land differently with each pass. First they sound like a slogan, then they begin to feel like a boundary. Finally, they become a way of breathing. The day opens with a few minutes of simple noticing. The mind recognizes the handful of movements that truly matter, and the rest of the noise becomes easier to let pass by without resentment. The body thanks you in the only language it knows, with steadier pulse and warmer shoulders. The soul thanks you with a kind of quiet that cannot be faked. When a life is guided this way, relationships change shape as well. Conversations slow down enough to hear what is not being said. Conflicts lose some of their heat because timing becomes wiser, and words are chosen for healing rather than winning. Work becomes more honest. The hours spent on what looks impressive shrink. The hours spent on what is actually useful grow. Time feels less like a cage and more like a field that invites focus and rewards it. Even rest becomes different. Not an exhausted collapse, but a deliberate exhale that restores. Direction over speed is a gift that keeps giving because it preserves the two resources no one can replace: attention and trust. Attention returns to the few things that deserve it. Trust returns from the people who feel the steadiness in your presence and start to believe your word again, including the person in the mirror. The path ahead may still curve and rise, yet the feet that walk it are no longer chasing the tune of urgency. They are moving to the rhythm of meaning, and that rhythm carries a person farther than adrenaline ever could. There is a quiet power hidden in small beginnings. A seed looks like almost nothing, a speck on the palm, a whisper against the wind, and yet within that smallness lives a patient map of what might be. The inner life follows the same pattern, a gesture repeated with care, a word chosen with gentleness, a breath taken a little slower than before. These are the seeds a person plants in the soil of ordinary days. Roots before fruit. Roots before fruit. The world wants fruit on demand. Wisdom honors roots. Hurry loves spectacle and becomes suspicious when change does not announce itself with bright signs. The vineyard does not hurry. It keeps time with sun and shade, with dew and dusk, with the long conversation between rain and soil. The life that learns from the vineyard stops asking for fireworks and starts trusting the quiet arithmetic of consistency. Not grand gestures that flare and fade, but modest motions that repeat until the ground remembers. The body hears this rhythm and softens into it. The mind stops bracing for failure and begins to expect growth. There is a kind of biology that blesses this way of living. When a simple action is linked to a familiar moment, the brain files the pattern in a place built for repetition. The basal ganglia begin to carry the load that used to exhaust the prefrontal thinker. The path becomes smoother, the friction less severe, the choice less dramatic. A habit is not a contract signed in one day. A habit is a path worn by faithful footsteps. The chemistry that once fired for anxiety starts to fire for steadiness. The nervous system learns the feeling of calm reward and begins to seek it without an argument. Seeds often look like they are failing before they are found to be working. Nothing shows for a while. The soil keeps its secret. Doubt walks the fence and whispers about futility. This is the tender moment when old patterns usually win, not because they are stronger, but because they are familiar. Wisdom holds the line here. Wisdom knows that life changes underground first. Wisdom remembers that roots must spread before branches can bear weight. Roots before fruit. The phrase becomes a kind of prayer for the one who is building quietly. There is mercy in choosing small. Small lowers the drawbridge for a tired mind. Small meets a weary body where it actually is. Small turns the possible into the present and lets identity catch up in peace. A person who practices small does not shrink their life. They steady it. They stop scaring their nervous system with huge promises that cannot be carried for long. They learn to make room for a single dependable rhythm, and then another, until the day itself begins to breathe in a kinder way. The field that is left to itself does not stay neutral. Thorns grow without instruction. Weeds organize themselves with astonishing speed. Neglect is not empty. Neglect is a busy worker. The inner life knows this truth even when the calendar pretends not to. If attention is not planted on purpose, distraction will plant itself and call the harvest inevitable. This is why the seed law matters. It answers neglect with tending. It answers drift with devotion. It answers noise with the patient music of repetition. Spiritual wisdom and emotional science meet each other in this practice. The spirit honors the sacredness of small faithfulness. The brain honors the chemistry of gentle repetition. Together they create a circle of strengthening. The action feeds the meaning. The meaning feeds the action. Over time, the story a person tells about themselves begins to change. I am someone who keeps small promises. I am someone who chooses steadiness over spectacle. I am someone who grows roots before asking for fruit. The name on the inside of the heart starts to match the life on the outside of the day. Setbacks still visit. Old weather still blows across the field. A week turns heavy, and the soil feels stubborn. In those seasons, shame tries to rename the person and call the harvest lost. Wisdom refuses that renaming. Wisdom knows that seeds do not erase themselves when a storm passes through. Wisdom knows that roots hold ground even when branches bend. Returning to the rhythm is not a defeat. Returning is part of the rhythm. The path is still there, patient, waiting for footsteps that remember how to move without drama. There is a quiet beauty in how these small habits change relationships. The tone grows softer at thresholds where harshness once stood guard. The pause between feeling and speaking widens just enough for kindness to step through. The eyes carry a steadier light that others notice without understanding why. Trust begins to accumulate again, both the trust one has in oneself and the trust others feel in this calmer presence. It is not a show, it is a climate. It is the weather of a life that has learned to tend its field. In time, the harvest arrives as if it had always been scheduled, not sudden fame, not loud applause. Fruit of a different kind, clarity that does not slip away under pressure, energy that does not burn out with each new demand, work that feels aligned with purpose rather than at war with it, rest that restores rather than numbs, love that speaks the language of patience, because patience has been practiced daily in 100 small ways. Roots before fruit. Say it again in the heart that is still learning to trust slow growth. Roots before fruit. The seed law keeps its promise. The vineyard answers with its quiet abundance. Every life carries a chorus. Some voices are loud and near. Some voices are soft and wise. Some are old warnings that never learned how to retire. Some are gentle truths that speak like morning. The shape of a day often depends on which voices are given the front row. Ancient wisdom says that plans collapse where counsel is thin, and that safety multiplies when guidance is rich. This is not a comment about weakness. It is an observation about design. Minds are social instruments. Hearts learn in company. Even the most independent soul carries the fingerprints of the voices it has trusted. There is a kind of loneliness that disguises itself as strength. It looks clean and efficient. It keeps its own counsel and calls the silence noble. Inside, the nervous system works overtime. Without a steady exchange of grounded perspective, the mind must invent its own weather report. Storms grow larger than they are. Hopes shrink smaller than they deserve. A quiet body can still be crowded by inner noise. Guidance does not remove responsibility. Guidance shares the weight. Guidance lends another set of eyes to the same horizon and makes the path less cruel to walk. Not all voices are equal. Some voices are fire and some are light. Fire can be beautiful, yet it burns through patience and leaves behind a layer of urgency that smells like smoke. Light shows shape and contour. Light does not rush. Light reveals. A life changes when it begins to recognize the difference. Elders who live what they say offer the calm authority of tested ground. Peers who are also building offer the friction that keeps a plan honest. Books that have survived time offer the long view that daily news cannot carry. Conscience and spirit offer the inner tuning fork that vibrates when truth is near. When these four sit together, the room feels sane again. There is tenderness in how the brain reacts to trusted presence. The heart rate softens. Breathing grows deeper without being told. The body listens for safety, and safety is often communicated in tone more than in words. A steady voice lowers stress chemistry. A frantic voice raises it. The one who brings calm is not always the one who speaks softly. Calm can wear a firm voice that stands in truth without heat. Calm can be a single sentence that lands like a hand on the shoulder. Calm can be a silence that makes room for a better answer to surface. The body knows the difference and records it. Many of us learned our first counsel in rooms where fear was the teacher. Advice came braided with shame. Guidance sounded like a verdict. No wonder the heart grew wary. No wonder the mind learned to seal the door and plan in private. Yet wisdom offers a different experience. Real counsel is not a spotlight that exposes. It is a lantern that joins you on the path. Real counsel asks good questions and listens for the line where your values and your actions finally agree. Real counsel does not compete with your voice. It helps you hear it. There is a pattern that repeats when untested voices run the show. Quick opinions feel like solutions. Flattery masquerades as support. Cynicism pretends to be discernment. The result is restless motion without real movement. Trusted counsel breaks the loop. It locates the thread of meaning and follows it through the tangle until something essential emerges. The tension in the shoulders eases. The eyes lift. The next step feels less like a guess and more like a promise you can keep, not because someone else decided for you, but because a true conversation cleared the fog. Wise company also protects a person from the kind of isolation that magnifies temptation. When the inner city grows quiet, shortcuts start to sound louder. A friend who loves your future more than your comfort can help here. A trusted book can help. A remembered prayer can help. These voices do not scold. They remind. They draw your attention back to the kind of person you are becoming and the kind of peace you want to carry. Integrity becomes easier to choose when it is not chosen alone. The counsel quadrant is not a diagram on a page. It is a living room inside the soul. In that room, there is a chair for the elder whose life bears fruit. There is a chair for the peer who sharpens without cutting. There is a chair for the classic that teaches from another century without losing relevance. There is a chair for the quiet within that hears the still note beneath the noise. Some days one chair will be empty. Some days all will be full. What matters is the ongoing conversation. What matters is the tone, honesty without humiliation. Courage without cruelty, faith without naivete. A person can feel this room forming long before it is perfect. The inner climate shifts. Decisions stop running on adrenaline and begin to run on alignment. Words lose their edge and gain their weight. You hear yourself speaking differently. You notice how advice that used to thrill now sounds thin. You sense when a voice is selling certainty instead of offering wisdom. The body often signals this shift before the mind names it. A soft exhale, a settling in the chest, a feeling of being accompanied even in solitude. There will still be seasons when confusion returns and the old echo chamber tries to take the floor. In those moments, the work is simple and deep. Reach again for what is time-tested. Reach again for presence that calms rather than inflames. Reach again for the voice within that knows the difference between fear and wisdom. This is not a command. It is a kind remembering. The room is still there. The chairs are still warm. The conversation can continue. The gifts of true counsel are not loud. They arrive as steadiness, as timing, as clean decisions that do not require elaborate explanations. They look like the humility to change course when a better path appears, and the courage to hold the line when a lesser offer knocks. They sound like laughter that returns after a heavy season because the burden is shared at last. They feel like trust gathering again around your name. A life shaped by wise voices becomes a life that becomes a wise voice for others. Not a savior, not a star, a steady presence that listens deeply and speaks with care. A presence that does not pretend to know everything, yet knows enough to ask the question that steadies the room. This is leadership of a quiet kind. This is the fruit of counsel. This is how a single soul can turn a house, a team, a family, a future toward clarity. The counsel quadrant is an act of reverence for your own life. It declares that your choices are worthy of real guidance. It honors the truth that even the strongest heart is not meant to carry every question alone. It gathers elders and peers and pages and prayer into one breathing space and lets their strengths meet your need. In that meeting, plans mature. In that meeting, safety grows. In that meeting, you remember who you are and who you are becoming, and the path ahead begins to open with a gentler confidence. There is a wealth that cannot be deposited, a currency that lives in the space between your name and another person's heartbeat. Call it trust. Call it the quiet credit that opens doors before you knock. Many chase the bright coins of attention and wonder why the balance inside keeps shrinking. The cost is subtle. When a life runs on, quick wins and clever shortcuts, the soul pays in small unmarked bills. Peace thins, relationships wobble, sleep grows light. The mirror starts asking questions that applause cannot answer. Ancient wisdom places a good name above riches because a good name multiplies what money only rents. A good name enters rooms ahead of you and speaks on your behalf. It says, this person's word has weight. It says, this person keeps promises when no one is counting. It says, this person will not trade your peace for their gain. That kind of reputation is not a slogan. It is a harvest. It grows from seeds that look ordinary while they are planted and precious once they bear fruit. The nervous system reads integrity in faster ways than we realize. The body relaxes around someone whose tone and actions match. Shoulders drop, breath deepens. The prefrontal thinker returns because it senses predictability. Deception does the opposite. The body hardens. The mind scans for threats. Every conversation costs more energy because the brain must run calculations beneath the words. There is a reason betrayal feels like illness. It injects confusion into a place made for safety. Trust heals by restoring coherence. What you say and what you do begin to rhyme. The room hears the rhyme before the mind names it. Shortcuts promise speed. The bill arrives later. Each small compromise is a weight added to the scale that measures your own peace. The load is not visible in a single day, yet over time it bends the posture of the soul. People who love you feel the bend even when they cannot describe it. They hesitate before relying on you. They talk about easy things and avoid the deeper ones. An invisible distance opens. The heart knows something sacred is being pawned for something shiny. The shine fades. The sacred is harder to buy back. Honest scales carry a beauty that does not age. You say yes, and it means yes. You say later, and it means later. You say no, and the no is clean, not spiked with guilt or hidden resentment. This steadiness builds a ledger that grows without fanfare. The line items are small, showed up when it rained, admitted the miss without blaming the weather, spoke well of the absent, returned what was not theirs. Over years, these entries compound. Doors open that talent alone could not touch. A phone call is returned because your name itself carries calm. There is a spiritual dimension to this treasury. Integrity does not merely ease transactions. Integrity aligns a person with the grain of reality. Life has a way of honoring alignment, not always quickly, not always with fireworks, often with the kind of provision that arrives exactly when it is needed, from places you could not have planned. Many call this luck. Wisdom calls it the long arithmetic of character. Sowers who tend their field in quiet seasons often find that harvests appear when the calendar begins to fear there will be none. This does not make life a straight line. Even the most careful heart will stumble. What saves the good name in those moments is the way the stumble is handled. Evasion corrodes, confession cleans, deflection multiplies damage, repair restores dignity to both sides. People do not expect perfection. They expect a story they can trust. A trusted story includes failure owned without performance, change made without spectacle, and a return to honest scales that is visible in time. Neuroscience speaks softly in the same direction. Consistent behavior lowers uncertainty, and lowered uncertainty frees the brain to collaborate rather than defend. Teams think better around someone whose word has proven reliable. Families breathe easier with someone whose tone is stable. Partnerships flourish when promises are treated like living things that require care. The dividends are practical, fewer misunderstandings, shorter recoveries after conflict, faster alignment when decisions are heavy. The return is also deeply human. Warmth in the eyes, laughter that is not guarded, presence that feels like shelter. The pursuit of status without substance often leaves a person alone in well-lit rooms. The pursuit of substance gathers people who bring their own light. This is the quiet prosperity that grows around a trustworthy life. Opportunities choose you. Mentors vouch for you without being asked. Friends bring your name into rooms where your feet have not yet walked. None of this can be forced. It is invited by the climate your character creates. It is the echo of years spent weighing choices on honest scales. There is a tender truth that belongs here. The self who cut corners was not a villain. Often that self was afraid of scarcity, afraid of being overlooked, afraid of being ordinary. The move toward integrity is not a punishment for that fear. It is a protection. It says to the frightened parts of you that safety lives in alignment, not in applause. It says wealth is sweetest when it does not cost your name. It says the future you want will require a reputation that can carry weight without cracking. When trust becomes your treasury, anxiety changes shape. You no longer scramble to prove worth in every room. The rooms begin to recognize the worth you carry. You no longer chase opportunities that do not fit your values. The opportunities that fit begin to circle back until the timing is right. You no longer barter with your conscience for small gains. The gains you keep are the ones that let you sleep deeply and look people you love in the eye without a flinch. The good name is a long game with a gentle pace. It teaches patience with the unseen work. It turns attention toward the moments no one applauds. It notices the crossroad where ease pulls one way and truth pulls another, and it remembers the cost of ease. Little by little, it writes a steady story. That story becomes a shelter for others. That story becomes a path you can walk with your head quiet and your heart clear. In time, this is the prosperity that shines from the inside out, a life minted from character, a name that is a kind of gold, a peace that cannot be bought because it was never for sale. Morning light opened over a market that never truly slept, where voices braided together like threads, and the smell of bread met the shine of metal. In that tangle of sound and color, one merchant learned the art of cleverness. He kept a scale for buying and another for selling, both polished, both smiling at the customer in different ways. Silver flowed toward him like a quick river after rain, and his stall grew crowded with proof that his method worked. Yet when night arrived, his chest felt tight, and his jaw held the day like a clenched fist. Sleep drifted close, and then changed its mind. Across the same street, another merchant worked in the same light. His stall looked ordinary, his stories were plain. On the counter sat a single scale, a simple arm and a steady needle, oiled carefully so the motion stayed smooth. People did not gather in large circles at his table. They came one by one, and their faces softened when they left. Coin by coin, his purse thickened, not from spectacle, but from the slow trust that visits a place where nothing needs to be hidden. He went home tired and unafraid, and his sleep was the kind that heals. Seasons turned and tested the market. Harvests swelled and shrank. Rumors blew through like sudden weather. The first merchant became famous for quick bargains and quicker exits. The second became known for a quiet reliability that did not feel impressive until the day required it. In time, the city needed a keeper for its main gate. Bandits roamed the hills. Traders arrived at dusk with stories that needed weighing. The council spoke long into the evening. They did not ask for the loudest name. They asked for the steadiest hands. They chose the one with the single scale. He stood at the gate as dawn lifted and watched the road with the same patience he used at his stall. He weighed faces. He weighed voices. He listened for cadence and intent, the small cues that tell truth from theater. Those who entered felt seen rather than judged. He welcomed the farmer with mud on his boots and tendered questions that brought out the real story. He turned away the traveler whose tale shifted like sand, not with anger, but with a firmness that left no wound. The city slept safely under his watch, and commerce grew without fear, because the gate kept its word. Meanwhile, the clever merchant found that wealth did not buy the feeling he wanted most. He stood at his window and looked at the lantern burning by the gatehouse and understood what the council had seen. People were not drawn only to price or novelty. They were drawn to coherence, that gentle alignment between word and weight. He began to notice the strain in his customers, the way hands hovered over his goods, the way a hand hovers over water it does not trust. His own body played the same game with sleep, dipping in and pulling back, dipping in and pulling back. One evening he visited the gate. He asked for a moment with the keeper. The keeper set his lantern on the stone and listened. The merchant spoke of rest that did not visit, of coin that did not quiet the heart, of choices that gave a thrill while stealing something softer that he could not name. He ended with a question that sounded like a confession. How does a person rebuild a name once the weight has slipped? The keeper did not offer a speech. He told a small story about a bent arm on a scale that had been repaired by heat and patience. Metal remembers the shape it was meant to hold, and so does a soul. The merchant returned to his stall carrying a silence that felt heavier than his purse and more valuable. He placed the false scale in a drawer he knew he would not open again. He brought forward the honest arm he had owned from the beginning and had avoided. His gains slowed and his breathing changed. Old customers watched with guarded eyes. New ones arrived on quieter feet. He swept the counter at closing and felt the day in his body with a different kind of satisfaction, something that resembled belonging. Time, which is a strict teacher and a kind one, did what time does. Stories about the gatekeeper settled into the city's bones. Children walking home after school stepped a little straighter when they passed the lantern. Merchants who had once tested the limits of fairness began to imitate the tone that now defined the market, not because a law had changed, but because the climate had. Trust had become a currency again, and people spent it with care. The keeper grew older without growing hard. He knew that the line between cleverness and corruption is often only a handful of small bends taken on days when fear is loud. He did not hate the man who had learned this too late to avoid the bruise. He greeted him at the gate with the same nod he offered everyone who now passed under the arch. When the merchant's cart rattled by at dusk, the lantern light caught a face less restless than before. The city noticed without comment, which is the purest kind of praise. In a world that counts by speed and spectacular climbs, the story of the scales and the gate is easy to overlook. It moves at the pace of breath and conversation and steady hands. Yet the lesson settles like rain into dry ground. Where measures are honest, sleep is deep. Where gates are tended, streets are calmer. Where names carry weight, doors open without force. And when the choice appears between clever and true, the soul that longs for peace will eventually lean toward the weight that does not shift, the light that does not blind, the watchman who does not sleep through his own alarm. Change that remains often travels in small circles: a morning circle, a midday circle, an evening circle, a weekly circle. Each one simple, each one humane. Together they create a climate where the mind feels safe enough to choose and the heart feels steady enough to care. The nervous system learns a kinder pulse. The soul learns a quieter song. Repetition becomes a friend rather than a fence. Morning quiet. Days that open in stillness carry a different weight. The first moments hold a slower breath, and the body understands that there is no alarm to obey. Light touches the page, and a line of wisdom settles like warm tea in the chest. Meaning rises and points the path with a gentle finger. Not many tasks, honest direction. The mind that often scatters begins to gather. The shoulders find their natural height. There is room inside to listen before speaking and to choose before rushing. This is not performance. This is a climate. The prefrontal thinker becomes available again, and the alarms in the deeper brain quiet enough to let clarity sit at the table. Midday watchfulness. As the hours thicken, the world invites hurry and comparison. In that pressure, attention remembers the gate. One noisy channel grows quiet. A calmer voice enters. Even a breath that lasts a little longer sends a signal that the present moment can be lived without armor. Focus returns from the edges and stands closer to the work that truly matters. The nervous system records the relief and saves the pattern for next time. Calm begins to feel familiar rather than foreign. The inner city hears its own footsteps again. Evening ledger. The day closes with an honest glance that does not scold. The mind notices a small habit that held, a page read without fanfare, a pause before a hard word, a promise kept in private. Roots before fruit repeats like a gentle bell, and the heart agrees. Where something slipped, repair takes the first breath inside the chest. Not a speech, a simple intention that will find its moment tomorrow. The body releases the day because the story underneath it is coherent. Sleep arrives as a companion rather than a negotiation. Weekly counsel. Once in a while, the room widens for guidance that has proven itself. A conversation with a steady elder. A walk with a friend whose honesty warms rather than burns. A few pages from a book that has carried other generations through their storms. A quiet prayer that gathers scattered thoughts and lays them in kind order. Out of that communion, a clear movement emerges without strain. Plans feel less like pressure and more like alignment. Courage rises without heat. Humility returns without shame. The future receives attention without stealing the present. What grows from this rhythm is not a show. It's a way of breathing that teaches the brain to prefer coherence over frenzy. Stress chemistry loses its throne, and timing becomes wiser. Decisions stop wrestling in the dark and begin to greet each other like neighbors who know the street they share. Relationships feel the shift before words are spoken. The tone softens at thresholds where impatience once lived. Trust begins to gather around your name because your presence carries a steady climate people can sense. There will be days when the circles break. A morning opens to noise, the middle hours dissolve into a blur. Evening forgets to exhale. Shame will try to turn a single miss into a verdict. Wisdom refuses that verdict. Wisdom remembers that gardens are tended, not conjured. The rhythm can resume without drama. Small faithfulness still makes sense. The field does not lose its map because a storm passed through. The soil keeps its memory and welcomes the next good seed. Over time, these quiet movements begin to compound. Energy returns in a kinder form. Work becomes more honest and less theatrical. Rest becomes restoration rather than escape. Love speaks with patience because patience has been practiced in small ways all day long. The mirror grows gentler because the person in it is not fighting their own breath. Identity solidifies around words that match the life that is being lived. I keep small promises. I guard the gate. I choose direction over speed. I plant roots before fruit. I welcome wise voices. I weigh with honest scales. This is the daily rhythm that changes a life from the inside outward, not a rigid program, a humane cadence, the same quiet steps repeated until they become a path that feels like home. In that home, the mind rests without losing its edge, the heart trusts without losing its strength, and the spirit listens without losing its place in the world. Quiet keeps its promise. Clarity follows. Momentum gathers. Peace stops being a visitor and becomes part of the family story. There comes a moment when all the voices of a long day begin to fade, and the deeper voice of your life steps forward. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It sounds like the weight leaving your shoulders after being carried for far too long. It sounds like breath that finally reaches the bottom of the lungs. It sounds like the mind remembering its own house and finding every room in kinder order than before. This is the moment when change stops being an idea and starts becoming a climate, not a performance. A way of being that fits the body and steadies the soul. What has taken shape here is simple and strong. A gate that is tended, a compass that is trusted, a field that receives small, faithful seeds, a room of wise voices that speak without heat, a name that gathers quiet credit because the scales are honest. These are not separate stories. They are one story told 5 different ways. They meet in the nervous system where alarms quiet and choices grow clear. They meet in the spirit where reverence turns ordinary minutes into sacred ground. They meet in the heart where meaning lives and measures time in a gentler rhythm. You may notice a different weather around you now. The air inside feels less crowded. The mind that once sprinted now chooses a pace that honors the length of the road. Decisions carry less static. Words fall with more care. Even silence feels more useful. The future no longer shouts from the end of the street. It waits at the next corner with an open hand. The fear of being late loosens its grip because alignment has taken leadership from urgency. Alignment is a generous leader. It asks for honesty and rewards it with rest. There is a tenderness for every version of you that tried other ways. The one who rushed because stillness felt unsafe. The one who chased praise because neglect hurt. The one who reached for shortcuts because scarcity stood at the door. None of that was weakness. It was survival. Now the body is learning a new shelter. Safety in clarity. Safety in direction. Safety in small promises that stand up even when the day leans hard against them. Safety in the kind of trust that lets the eyes meet the eyes of those you love without a flinch. Ancient wisdom has always kept this door open. Guard the inner life and the outer life finds its path. Choose understanding and the steps align in their own time. Plant faithfully and the hidden roots will hold when weather turns. Walk with counsel and the road grows less cruel. Keep honest scales and your name becomes a bridge others can cross without fear. These lines sounded like poetry when you first heard them. By now they feel like architecture, walls that protect without trapping, windows that open without letting the storm rain, a foundation that answers questions even when words are few. If you listen closely, you can hear the beginning of a new story forming in the way you carry yourself. The spine does not need to prove anything. The jaw unclenches earlier in the evening. The hands reach for work that matches your values and release what does not. The voice changes tone around those who matter most. The mirror reflects a face that belongs to a person you recognize and respect. Nothing here is sudden. Everything here is real. The path ahead will still curve. There will be bright days and difficult days. There will be moments when old weather tries to blow through the gates again. Yet the tools are not fragile. They do not vanish when shaken. They remember you. The gate remembers how to close with gentleness. The compass remembers true north even under clouded skies. The field remembers where the seeds belong. The room of counsel remembers its chairs. The scales remember their balance and tilt toward peace. Memory can be a healer when it is trained by wisdom. Let this closing feel less like an ending and more like a homecoming. The life that seemed far away has never been out of reach. It waited beneath the noise for your attention to return. It waited beneath the rush for your breath to deepen. It waited beneath the hunger for praise for your name to stand up on its own quiet feet. You are not behind. You are arriving. You are not broken. You are being rewoven with steadier threads. You are not alone. The room within is filled with voices that want your good and a presence that does not tire. Hold one truth as you step into the days that follow. What you let in will shape what flows out. Keep the gate with kindness. Aim your effort with understanding. Plant small and often. Sit in the company that makes you wiser. Let your name carry the weight of honesty. When these move together, life begins to feel like it fits. Work fits. Rest fits. Love fits. And the person moving through those hours feels like the truest version of the one who started listening here. If a single sentence rose while you listened, keep it close. Not as a command, as a companion. Let it walk beside you until it becomes a way of walking. In time, others will feel the climate around you and rest a little deeper in your presence. In time, you will feel it too, a quieter strength, a deeper calm, a clearer path. Change your mindset and see your life change is no longer a promise made from far away. It is the sound of your own steps on familiar ground, returning to yourself with peace in your hands.